What's the strangest fetish you've heard of? I met an older guy who was a warden in charge of a federal prison. Hypermasculine, military background, always in control, very blunt talking giant of man. He was also closeted for most of his life. Anyway, as he neared his retirement, he decided to live the life he wanted and began dating a feminine, thinly built younger man who was an acquaintance of ours. After his retirement, he leased a beach house for the whole season in the Keys and went there with his boyfriend, and we didn't hear from them for several months. At the end of the season, our friend came back alone and was kind of quiet about the whole thing. He wouldn't talk about his time there and wouldn't say anything about this man, which was not like him to be so reserved. Later on, after he processed what happened, he told us about it. The retired warden had a baby fetish, meaning this prison warden alpha man type would dress in an adult diaper, cry, demand to be fed, rocked, tucked in, baby talked, and have his diapers changed. You'd never expect this from meeting this guy. His boyfriend, this young guy we knew, was not at all prepared to deal with this. He tried sticking it out and playing along, but the guy was getting more and more into it and spending more and more time in baby mode. Our friend had to bail after changing one too many filled diapers. I'm a fetish sex worker, and I've seen some really fun, different fetishes. One of my favorite weirdos, I say that with immense affection, was into boxing gloves as lingerie. He could go from flaccid to rock hard in seconds the instant a girl put on boxing gloves. His particular interest was a naked girl gently tapping his balls with gloves while having a normal, friendly chat. Nothing violent, nothing overtly sexual, just the pat of leather flicking against his bag as we talk about what we're doing this weekend. Eventually he'd ask me to start lightly punching my own tits and abdomen with the gloves, he'd stroke himself, and there you go, another satisfied customer. Cartoon animal characters. Not furry, but actual animals. When I first ran into the Vaporeon copy pasta, I went on a deep dive out of pure curiosity. In other words, I went to that Rule 34 art gallery site. The entry for Vaporeon was massive. And a lot of it wasn't furry like you'd expect. Most prefer it in the original package. But that isn't even the tip of the iceberg for how massive this hole goes. Out of curiosity, I wandered over to the top characters and Twilight Sparkle the pony was number one. By a long shot. She's beating out all the anime chicks I crushed on in high school, all the furry bait characters, everyone. People are horny as fuck for that purple horse. This eventually led me to /MLP/ on 4chan. 90% of the threads there were people simping on ponies. And they absolutely crush anyone that even hints that the ponies would be anything other than their original animal forms. Entire communities within the community built on topics like Fluttershy raping them were being transformed into a pony filly and sleeping with other fillies. It's insanity. So yeah. The rise in cartoon animals, I guess. Did Disney do this to people? Okay, so this is a story about my mate's brother's mate. He went back to a girl's place after a date, first time they'd slept together. Just prior to getting stuck into it, she produces a silk scarf and asks if he will let her stuff it into his anus. After deliberation, he agrees, the scarf is inserted and they get at it. Just prior to the vinegar stroke, she grabs the tip of the scarf and rips it out of his asshole. He came and shit the bed at the same time. It was a mess. He was hugely embarrassed and trot off to the bathroom post-haste. Feeling terrible about the mess he had left in the bed, he cleans himself up and heads back to apologize and sort it out. On return to the scene, he finds her smothering herself in the excrement. This was too much. He collects his stuff and takes off. I swear I scrolled the whole thing. A lot of effed up ones. Did not see mine. But I think it's the strangest. You didn't ask for most effed up, you asked for strangest. Adhesive bondage. The sub in this case walking into a sticky substance, and through struggling, slowly ensnare themselves more and more to the point they can barely move. It becomes a turn-off though if it blocks their mouth and nose, cutting off air in the process. Imagine a giant spiderweb, for example, though I prefer the spider who made it is long gone. Or say a giant rat trap glue tray. A secondary one is people getting a pair of extreme footwear locked on them. Tall heels, thick boots, things like that. The key being no matter how much they try, they can't seem to pull the footwear off. Well, masochism is fairly common and well known. Anything that can hurt, someone will like. What I find more interesting is airplay fetishes. Everyone knows about choking. For a lot of the people who like it, including me, it's just about dominance and not actually the sensation of running out of oxygen. Some people, however, do actually want to run out of oxygen and experience that high. Going off that, there are also some who prefer just having their nose and mouth plugged to be choked rather than held by the throat, and even some who enjoy drowning in a safe environment, OFC. But of course, drowning is a little different than choking. So I guess my answer is a drowning fetish. Or if that's too mild for you, how about we take a look into my favorite fandom and pull out a card? How about a plush fetish? Where you have to be made out of or have your sub made out of plush, like a stuffed animal. I sorta get it.